soon forget the morning I was driving to work in our city. And when I reached a large intersection where hundreds of cars were converging, I looked up and saw a giant billboard, and it read, "Congratulations, Nightsounds Radio. We're celebrating your anniversary." And then it gave the call letters of the radio station locally where that program could be heard. When I saw that, and I saw the name of our ministry up there, I got a surge of pride, followed immediately by, well, something that almost drove me to tears, because I recalled back, not too long before that I had almost literally wiped out as a communicator, as a servant of God, or whatever you might call it. This is Nightsounds. I'm Bill Pearce, and I welcome you. We have about 27 minutes ahead of us, and I've subtitled our time together, Spiritually Proud. Do you think there's such a thing as constructive pride? I think there is. Aren't you proud to be an American, if that's the case? How about your grandchildren, if you have them? Are you proud of your grandchildren? Are you proud of your mom or dad, or a favorite teacher, or a friend? When something really great and significant happens, aren't you proud? Destructive pride is conceit, and it takes us down. And you know, it's amazing how even pastors or evangelists, Christian musicians, singers, workers, how they can come to own what God does in and through their lives. Someone said pride, the home address of all sin, is such a subtle, insidious, and powerful enemy. It seeks to flaunt itself at every opportunity. Ignore it, and it rushes in to occupy center stage. That can happen to any of us, even servants of God. Tonight, as we get into our program with the title, Spiritual Pride, let's turn to a hymn of prayer to God, the potter of our lives, our Creator. This is a song of submission and surrender. Most of you who are acquainted with the old hymns will recognize this prayer, looking to God to have His way, to strike our pride and exalt the Lord Jesus, whom we serve.
Have thine own way, Lord. Have thine own way. Thou art the potter, I am the clay. Mold me and make me after thy will, while I am waiting. Yielded and still. Have thine own way, Lord. Have thine own way. Search me and try me, Master, today. Whiter than snow, Lord,
Beautiful old song sung tonight passionately by Robert Robinson, Henry Weems at piano, in our program Nightsounds, with the subtitle Spiritually Proud. A contradiction of terms, but again there is such a thing as spiritual pride. And it's constructive. It can be. I can say that I am proud to have a part in the Lord's kingdom, proud to be on His team. That doesn't mean conceit, and sometimes there is a fine line, I guess. I'm thinking of orchestral members right now. It's very infrequent that we'll see a solo instrument in an orchestral concert being a double bass or a tubist. There's something about bass instruments that is supportive. They're not hot dog players by and large, but they are so necessary. A professional orchestrator, musician, and arranger, Dr. David Winkler, was speaking to this not too long ago in an article in the Christian Instrumental Directors Association newsletter. He said, after many years of working with church orchestras, I've observed, as maybe you have, that bass instruments, whether they're woodwinds, brass, or strings, are often in scarce supply in the church ensemble. A couple of explanations could be offered for this. First, the lower-sounding instruments are usually large, requiring an able body to carry them, as well as a larger automobile to transport them. He said, I once had a military band tubist, that's a fellow that plays the big tuba, who often came to rehearsal on a motorcycle with his tuba strapped to his back. So being larger, these instruments are also generally more expensive. In many cases, a player may not even own his own instrument. He may have rented or used a school-supplied one in the past. There's a psychological factor as well, Dr. Winkler said, which I call the servant mentality. Players of bass instruments almost always find themselves in a supportive posture. Rarely are they asked to play a solo of any kind. If they wanted to play the melody, they'd have taken up a flute or trumpet or violin. It takes a certain amount of humility to spend most of one's musical life in the background, while others are taking the lead parts or the solos. Musically, the bass line is a key foundational part of any ensemble and almost any composition. Perhaps one exception to this is a foundation instrument, the bass trombone, which is an essential part of any symphony orchestra. Douglas Yo is bass trombonist of the Boston Symphony Orchestra, a fine Christian man, player, expert. And here is the way he sounds. I don't know whether you've ever heard a bass trombone, but it can be, as I mentioned, foundational but almost sonorous and beautiful in its mellifluence as it strikes out with a certain amount of visceral vitality to it. You probably recognize that as the Christmas song, O Come, Emmanuel. Doug Yo playing bass trombone there, as we're talking about a supportive factor. In the orchestra, the often overlooked bass instruments, providing a foundation, and they're sort of played with a servant mentality of support. Taking just a moment's break here, and in the event that you've just joined us in the past few moments, you're in tune with the program Nightsounds. I'm Bill Pearce, and our subject tonight is spiritually proud. Doesn't sound like those two words go together. We'll be back to this in a few moments. One of the things I try not to do is to get into explorative statistics. Now and then people will ask, what is your listening audience to Nightsounds? I don't know. The potential audience is in the millions upon millions upon millions. But that's potential. The actual audience, no one knows. Well, what percentage of those who respond to you indicates the entire audience? Is it 1 in 100 who write, or 1 in 1,000? That I don't know either. I don't even try to speculate on that. But I do know that there are many who listen to Nightsounds who do not respond. We've never heard from you. We don't know who you are. And that number, I just have a feeling, comprises the greater majority of listeners. Those who have heard and listened and with whom we meet every night in this way, but who have never responded or written to us. So these nights we're sort of nudging you just to find out who you are, where you are, if we can be of any help to you, how you're receiving us, because I want it to be a dialogue. Our mailing address, Nightsounds, Wheaton, Illinois, 60189. Once again, our program title, speaking of spiritual pride. There's a fine line in there somewhere. When it comes to serving Christ, sometimes we can own things in our own minds, such as this program is not my program. It's not my ministry. Pride just loves to take advantage of our passion and zeal for Christ, perverting it and turning it into a sort of a billboard for our spiritual significance and success. Leona Choi wrote a little piece here called Without Me. She asked the question, without me, Lord, could life go on? Would the world still turn and work get done? Without me? Without me, Lord, could they walk by themselves who lean on my arm? Would they be kept from harm? Without me, could you still work? So, who am I to think that I'm the hub around which the world turns and all spokes lead to me? God is not obliged to work through my earthen vessel, my created lump of clay with numbered days and faltering ways. With me or without me, His purpose He will fulfill. I'm amazed that He stoops to choose and sovereignly use this human trifle as an instrument to do His will. Lord, cause me to understand my dispensability, my frailty, and still offer you my availability. So in a sense, it is not so much our talent, our expertise, our ability that God uses, as much as availability. Are we ready? Are we flexible? Are we prepared to leave all and follow Him? I'd like to call on the group treasurer to speak of this particular subject. Without Him, what in the world would I do?
Without Him, I could do nothing. Without Him, I'd surely fail. Without Him,
Jesus, I'm safe evermore. The group Treasure with little musical medley there tonight in our program Spiritually Proud. Sometimes we wonder whether it is passion or pride. Our heart's prayer and passion should be to know Him, Christ, and the power of His resurrection. That's why Jesus warns us that we need a righteousness that surpasses that of the scribes and Pharisees. Passion and performance in themselves are inadequate. This righteousness to which we've been called is written on our hearts by the Spirit of God. It's a gift. We can't strive for it or operate from it. It serves as the backdrop for what we do and say and how we do it, to the glory and honor of the Lord. Tonight's program, Spiritually Proud, finds each one of us vulnerable to that essence of pride in us that can take over our passions and our performance and even our minds. Let's ask God for a servant mentality so that we can follow Him as Jesus gave us the pattern. He took upon Himself the form of a servant. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for this privilege we have of touching You with faith. We thank You for the power of the gospel. We just pray that we'll never disappoint You or disobey You or believe in our so-called press reports. That we'll never be out of Your care. Thank You for that assurance tonight.
The eyes of God are upon me. He sees everything I do. The arms of God are around me. They keep me safe and secure. And He knows where I am every hour of every day. He knows each thought I think. He knows each word that I might say. And although there are times I step out of His will, I've never been out of His care. This changing world alarms me with wars, with sin, and with strife. But my loving Father charms me with joy
promise that's good to know and remember as we take our leave of you tonight and the program Night Sounds. I think those of us who have been Christians for many years or have grown up in a Christian environment have to be particularly careful of spiritual smugness that concludes that we are incapable of sinful failure. We don't have to plummet to the depths of failure to experience brokenness, but we do need to remember what we're capable of doing to the glory of God. Thanks so much for being with us. May God be with you till we meet again, here or yonder, and a peaceful good night to you.